creating art is eternal. It's ongoing, it's ever flowing, and that's something that I feel within myself, and I feel like it's never gonna go away. Yeah, I just took the leap. I was just like, F it, like, I'm just gonna see how far this goes. The cool thing about social media is it's a cool medium to even the odds in the music industry. I think that's the reason why I started playing guitar. It's just to convey this unfiltered emotion that I had in my heart and soul, to write music in those moments when you don't want to write music, and you challenge yourself and you push yourself, because there can be a breaking point in terms of that, but it can also bring out something that you never knew that you had. It's very interesting. When I first started playing guitar, I felt a sense of freedom. It was very unusual because at the time when I was a kid, I was dealing with a lot of traumatic events that were happening in my life, and I was very depressed. And guitar was just a gateway for me to express my emotions. I think the feeling of my fingers on the neck and just the strumming and hearing the chords just resonated with my soul very much so. And I think also just seeing other musicians play guitar and seeing how much fun they were having when they were playing it, and that was something that I really wanted to feel. I wanted to feel that sense of freedom that these other musicians were having when they were playing their instrument, and that was something that I really, really wanted to convey for myself. So, one of the things that I wanted to do as a musician, as a guitar player, is to make people feel something, and that's what I chase after. And I've told the story many times before, but I think when I first saw Animals as Leaders live, I saw Tosin Abasi playing his guitar, that really just lit a fire under my ass, and I just really wanted to be like him. There wasn't a lot of black guitar players doing what he was doing, let alone any guitar players doing what he was doing, and he was a black man, and growing up, he was a big role model for me, and that was just something that I really needed when I was a teenager, and it was very beautiful. And yeah, I think that's the reason why I started playing guitar. It's just to convey this unfiltered emotion that I had in my heart and soul, and I just loved the way it made me feel. I think my favorite thing about playing the guitar is the raw emotion that you can get from picking up the instrument and just playing a couple of notes. Another thing is just getting into this like idle mind of just playing, and you're just mesmerized by the notes and whatnot. It's like an almost hypnotic feeling, and I think that's what I really like about playing guitar. It's almost like a natural high that you get from it. I also like the challenge of it. I like playing challenging things, and I like trying to create different sounds and whatnot, and also different techniques. And I think that's one of the things that brings me joy. I like the emotional and spiritual aspect of the instrument, but I also like the challenge. And I think having a sweet middle ground with those things will make you a great musician. And that's something that I try to do in my day-to-day life. But those are some of my favorite things about playing the instrument. Guitar is just really fun, and it's just a really good instrument to convey your emotions and to challenge yourself. My approach to writing music is a bit on the edge of just feeling it. A lot of times, all the music that I've written, I felt it within me. Um, and I tend to lean on that a little bit more. But that doesn't mean I write music just for that. I also write music just to write music. I think it's important to write music in those moments when you don't want to write music and you challenge yourself and you push yourself because, you know, there can be a breaking point in terms of that, but it can also bring out something that you never knew that you had. Um, so it's a lot of feeling, and it's also the other approach of doing it when you don't want to do it. I think a lot of times when I create a song or a beat or a melody, any of those things, I have a theme put in part in my head. And a lot of time that theme can be put together with a beat. And sometimes I create the beat first, or I tend to do this a lot. I tend to create guitar loops. So I'll layer a ton of guitar loops and just create like this melodic cacophony of sound of with the instrument of the guitar. Because the main thing that I really wanted to do is how can I make the guitar the main aspect of the music, but not make it guitar driven, if that makes any sense. I think a lot of my music is very guitar centric, but at the same time, I'm writing guitar parts like I would write different instruments. Like, I'll write a guitar part that is very reminiscent to a bass. I'll write a guitar part that's very reminiscent to the drums. And I'll just write a guitar part just to write a guitar part. So I like to think of each individual instrument and try to embody that on the guitar. My sound is very unique. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that I have a very unique new sound. I would say my sound is a good mix of hip hop and prog music, prog metal. I think the two genres mesh very well. Hip hop is a very progressive genre. There's a lot of looping and there's a lot of sampling from other music. There could be sampling from Brazilian music. There could be sampling from Indian music. Anything, honestly. Hip hop will take its claws and dig it into anything. And I think that's what makes the genre so revolutionary. Whereas prog metal is just the same aspect. It's ever changing and there's always things revolving around it. But a lot of times, you can still be progressive and be repetitive. You just have to implement different ideas. Ideas, unorthodox ideas that necessarily aren't the norm. And I feel like that's my music. I'm a big hip hop head. I love hip hop. I grew up on that, my entire life. And I love metal. I've been listening to hip hop metal my entire life. And I've always wanted to mesh those two entities together and just create something new. And I feel like I found a really good middle ground, especially with my new album, Seeing Pastures. I do, all the songs have rapping on it. They're very poetic and they're very driven in terms of talking about the psyche and, the mind and whatnot. Very reminiscent to Death, the band Death. Chuck Schuldiner really talked about the mind and the aspects of living and whatnot. And I feel like I try to bring that to the table with the new album and also with hip hop. There's a lot of poetic structure within the lyrics and whatnot. And I feel like that's something that I have done and I'm very proud of it.
Big playing things, big playing moves, got a lot to lose. Rent past due, bills past due. Living on the edge, poor man jewels, poor man rules. Gotta feed myself, gotta wake up, get it, repeat. And maybe a nigga can sleep, bad for your health. You a broke boy, you a broke nigga. Better repeat yourself, I'm a real ass nigga. Trying to see a man but a dog. Oh yeah, if I'm a paper nigga. If I were you, I would laugh at the paper nigga. I would never say some dumb shit like that, bitch. Better sit down and think for a sec. Bipolar nigga, sick little bitch. After them all the pills, I'm a real ass nigga.
One of the things I wish I knew when I was a younger musician is I kind of wish I dug into theory a little bit more. At the moment, I do not know theory, and I wish I learned it when I was younger. And I feel like I would have been able to communicate better with, my peers and whatnot. I feel like that's a problem that I have now. It doesn't stop me from playing with them. It's just I have to take. It takes me a little bit to understand what they're saying. So I kind of wish I knew theory. And I will say this to my musicians. I mean, if you have the opportunity and privilege to learn theory, I would highly recommend to learn it because it's just it's a tool, guys. It's not something. It's not the end all on the guitar. It's not. It can make you a better musician in terms of its application. It's not something that is going to, correct your technique or anything like that. It's just something. It's a tool. So when you play, you know exactly what you're doing. It's a language. You're speaking a language to other musicians that they understand. It's a way to convey certain aspects of the guitar. And that's something that I wish I learned when I was a younger musician. I am slowly learning theory right now. So give me, I don't know, like 2 years and I'll be able to speak that language. The cool thing about social media is it's a cool medium to even the odds in the music industry. You have direct contact with your fan base. And I think that's what benefited me. I was able to connect to people directly. And that really helped my organic growth on social media. Places like Facebook and Facebook groups, you can actually share your videos to people and people watch it, and if your content is good, they reciprocate that. And I'm very fortunate enough to have people that like my music and content. So that's the benefit of social media, the connection with fans and whatnot. And also, it's a good way to express yourself. The internet is a vast place, and there's a lot of different people online, and there's a lot of niche communities out there. There are people out there that, think the same way you think, and it makes you feel like you're not alone. When you're doing this music thing full time, it's very easy to feel alone. And I feel that constantly, but having that connection online with people really helps me, and it shows that there's people out there that actually care about my art and that are excited to hear the things that I do. And that's something that pushes me forward. Of course, you need to have your own self-confidence and believe in yourself and whatnot, but it's also great to have a community of people that feel the same way you feel.
Get with it, be a man, tell a friend, stay blessed. 2 down, 3 down, let's get it. Be fair, upstairs, go figure. Bless up, stay up, get with it. Be a man, tell a friend, stay blessed. 2 down, 3 down, let's get it.
It was scary as hell. I jumped into it. I was just like, F it. Okay, so let me tell the story. I worked at an elementary school and I wasn't getting a lot of hours. It was the month of December. I remember this was 5 years ago, and it was November going to December. And I got my check from the school and I saw how tiny it was. And at the time I was like, okay, this sucks. And I was working on my EP titled Vitality, and I worked on a couple of videos and filmed stuff with Felix Martin. Felix Martin is the first person that ever filmed my music video, and it was for my music video Vitality. And I was coming up with all of these things, like trying to create kind of just like my social media platform and whatnot. And I made my Facebook page and I did all those things. So I remember looking at that check and I was like, okay, if I can make more than this in a month, just like I was looking at my income for the month of November, I was like, if I can make more doing music in December, and make more than what I made in November working at the school, I'll quit. So I went ahead, I created my page, posted the video, the EP came out, and sure enough, I made more money with that EP that I made at the school, and I was just like, all right, I'm quitting. I'm quitting the school, and I'm going to do music full time. It was a big leap. I had no savings account. I was broke as hell. And at the time, I was living with my sisters downstairs. I was sleeping on the couch. And yeah, I just took the leap. I was just like, F it. Like, I'm just going to see how far this goes. Vitality proved that I can make money off music. Like, that EP is what saved me from a life of just 9 to 5s, if that makes any sense. And it was scary, man. It was scary. The first year was a struggle, man. That was a crazy struggle because I was still trying to figure out like different ways to make money. I was learning so many things, and after that second year, I got my kind of head. I was grounding myself, and I was seeing the bigger picture. And then the third year, kind of just putting together all those things that I learned in the 2 years and applying it, and just working on stuff. I came out with Delete This, and I made a good chunk of change off Delete This too. So each release just showed that, hey, I can do this. I can do it. You can make a living off music. You just have to bust your ass to do it, especially if you're an independent artist like I am. I'm independent. I record all of my music myself. I mix and master. The only thing that I usually get help with is from music videos and whatnot. There are a couple of songs on Sometimes It Be Like that were mixed and mastered by my good friend Russ. And yeah, it's just scary, man. It was very scary, and it was scary and fun because making content. I was making content every day. Like, I was really hustling, so it's very tiring. So what I would recommend for my fellow musicians that want to jump into music full time is, just have a plan. Be realistic. I guess I was being semi-realistic, but I also was being very stupid. And I just jumped into it, and sometimes that doesn't work for people. Having a plan is the first step to creating that life, of being a full-time musician, and also having different avenues to make income, and just being strategic with how you create that income, because you can create that income. I've created my income. There are different ways you can do. The internet has opened the gateways of creating different weird ways to make money. So there's a lot of ways to create that income for yourself as a musician. I think my end goal is to be safe. I've never felt safe in my entire life. I think just now I'm feeling a little safe. I have an apartment with my fiance. I have a career in music. It feels pretty good, but it's not cushiony. I don't think it'll ever be, but I think that's my end goal, is to create a natural flow of music and business and whatnot, if that makes any sense. A natural flow of music and business. Nothing too artificial. I think I want to create a way to make that supplemental income and create that passive income to where I can care about the people in my life, and have the time to cater to people and experience things. That's my end goal. I don't want to make a lot of money. That's not my goal, honestly. My goal isn't to make money. My goal is to create art. The money comes afterwards. The money is always going to be there. Money is always going to be there, and it will come. I'm not really worried about that right now. You have to have a sense of worry for it because you have to pay your bills. But I'm in a comfortable spot right now where I can pay the bills that I have, and I can worry about the art. And that is an extreme privilege to be in. And don't get it wrong, I'm still poor, but I'm still in a privileged position in terms of just how I can think a lot and realistically, I want to be comfortable, and that's the end goal. And also, the to put a part two on the end goal is to create art. I just like creating music. There's nothing else to it. I just love playing guitar, and I just love creating music. The end goal is just to continue to create music as well. And that's something that I feel like people should strive for, because it makes it less of a race to get a dollar. Creating art is eternal. It's ongoing, it's ever flowing, and that's something that I feel within myself, and I feel like it's never gonna go away. I think the thing that makes me excited is when I create. I guess this is gonna sound cliche. When I create a piece of music that just gives me a piece of energy. I feel like music is energy, and when you create it, you're just constantly putting in your energy into this, and then the song hits you, and you just feel the flush of energy coming back to you. That's what excites me the most. It's like, I don't know, it's like a gauge. When you're like in the studio and you're recording, you're constantly filling up the gauge. And then when the gauge is about to burst, that's when the song is done. And when the song is mixed and mastered, you listen back to it and it gives you goosebumps, and you're just like, oh, that's it. I feel it. That's what makes me excited. I love that feeling so much. I constantly chase it. It's a constant thing, because when you're like recording music and you're like doing all these other things, it feels really good when you write a good song. You're just like, ooh, it hits you, because you're pouring in all of this energy, and it makes you very tired. But when you listen to the song, it brings it back. So it's like an ebb and flow thing. It's a give and take thing, and that's what excites me the most. Everything is an ebb and flow. You're going to have some off days, and you're going to have some good days. And it's important to be present on those bad days and to examine yourself, because you'll see the worst of yourself on those bad days. You'll start to question yourself. You'll start to feel like a waste of just body and flesh. At least that's what I feel. And it's very important to look at the bigger picture and understand that those ebb and flows and those bad days create those good days. And of course, I've had a lot of bad days. You're going to have a lot of bad days doing this, being a guitar player. You're going to question yourself a lot. But it's always important to remember that music is what fuels you. It's something that gives you energy. And sometimes you get tired, and sometimes you need to take a break. And when you take that break, and when you come back, you hit even harder. It's like a broken bone. You break the bone, it heals, and then it gets stronger afterwards. Music is like that. Being a guitar player is like that. And, don't beat yourself up. That's the first thing, because I see it a lot. I see it a lot with a lot of young musicians and older musicians. They feel like they're at a plateau with their technique and their playability on the instrument. And I think it's important to remember why you started as well. Why did you pick up the guitar? Usually when I tell people that, when they tell me they're having a really hard time on the instrument, I was like, okay, why did you pick it up? And usually they say it's because it was fun. And I was like, there you go. Have fun, man. This is fun. You started this because you were having fun and you loved the way it made you feel. And you have to constantly remind yourself the feeling that you first got when you had it. And sometimes that feeling goes away. It happens to me, you know. But like I said, you have to remind yourself that it's an ebb and flow. It's a give and take thing. And you're not going to have good days all the time. You'll have terrific days as well. It's important to stay present on both of them, to remember that there comes a time when you have a great day of playing guitar, a great month, and then the next month might not be too bad. But you gotta hang around and see what happens. At least that's how I feel. Love your instrument, man. Love your instrument. Love the feeling and love the texture of it. Admire it. You have to have this unwielding love of it, and that's what's going to make you a better musician, is to have fun and just love it. Constantly yearn for that love.